Mike Tomlin talking with reporters, media members last week. There's a lot of takeaways. He was very candid in speaking with reporters. But if there was one thing you could take away from what he said last week, what would that be? We'll go from there.
Ooh, one thing to take away. I think he had an honest assessment of where things were for a lot of people, and including the leaders on the team, the quarterback situation. I think, okay, I'll go with this. When asked about the quarterback situation, he said, hey, Kenny Pickett, yep, he's the starter, and he threw that but in there very quickly, but he's going to have competition. And that competition could be Mason Rudolph. It could be any number of free agents. It could be a rookie draft pick. I think it could be a mix of both. But it is clear that Mike Tomlin, he has to walk the wire when you're a coach. And it's funny, I was just talking with Jeff Capel, Pitt basketball's head coach, about this. But you have to walk a wire where your part of your job as a coach is to make sure that your players believe in themselves. Tell them the truth. Coach them hard. But make sure that, like, at the end of the day, your job is to make sure their confidence, has a chance to go up. And part of that could also be, getting in their face and grilling them and doing stuff like that. But every coach has their different way of doing that. Mike Tomlin isn't going to come out and say, man, Kenny Pickett stinks, get him out of here. But he's going to say, hey, like, we believe in Kenny Pickett. If you're the head coach, you got to say that about the quarterback that you want to become your starter and to, or earn the starting job back. Or I guess he didn't lose it, but you get my point. You want him to develop into a franchise quarterback, but you also can't pigeonhole yourself into, well, he's just our guy. Because then you send mixed messages. Then if he gets replaced, then it's like, well, you promised me something. And the way that he addressed the media tells me that Mike Tomlin has not promised Kenny Pickett anything other than you will have the opportunity to prove that you are still the starter of this football team in 2024.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And let me kind of walk you through how I think this plays out. So
sure.
I think you exercise the out with Mitch Trubisky, which will be about $4 million, but I just don't see any upside in keeping him in the room in a premium for a third string role. I think you try to bring Mason Rudolph back on the cheap, but there's no doubt about the fact that he's going to make more than the league minimum. It's just a matter of how much. I would try to say, hey, the money we're allocating to Mitch, we can pay you maybe a 2-year contract worth about $10 million total. How does that sound? But what is his value relative to the other teams with the 4 starts that he made at the back half of the season? Because even in a 4-game sample size, in my opinion, he was the Steelers' best quarterback. And then with Pickett, it's like, even if you're Kenny's biggest fan, 2 seasons now where he hasn't been able to get through the course of the whole season healthy, and then a sophomore year where he only throws 6 touchdown passes, like, I know a lot of that is coaching. And that's the reason why you fire Matt Canada midseason, something the Steelers haven't done with a coach or coordinator since the World War II era in 1941. But I think you'd probably start next season with Pickett as QB1 for maybe the first 8 games and see where you're at from there. But I think it's really going to be contingent upon, can you bring Mason Rudolph back on the cheap on a team-friendly deal?
I agree. And you're right. I'm not sure he takes a team-friendly deal. I mean, like, I think it'll be friendly in the sense that it won't bankrupt the Steelers if he took it, but it won't be like he's going to go explore and he's going to go see what he can get from other NFL teams, which last year was nothing. And you know what? Mason Rudolph didn't have much of a track record to prove that he deserved. And he even admitted, like, he was like, hey, like, I was considering commercial real estate. like he told us that straight up after the Bengals game. And I think that now with 3 really good games as a good game managing quarterback that were essentially playoff games, the Steelers lose any of those, they're out the playoffs. And then not a good playoff game, but a gutsy one where he hung in there. He made tough throws against a really good Bills team. I think someone's going to go look at that and say, that's good number 2. And if he can get $8 to $10 million, someone might throw a bag at him like that. He'll take that and run away with it. I'm not sure if the Steelers would pay him that much. They might pay him like 5 to 7, maybe 5 to 8, like squeeze that in there and make it maybe like a 2-year deal where it builds up or something. But I think that's the dilemma the Steelers are under, is if someone else comes calling Mason, and he has every right to goes off with that. The only thing that might save that is if you're Mason Rudolph, you think, well, I do know these guys and I do know these receivers, these tight ends, this offensive line, and there is a built confidence around me. Whereas if I go somewhere else, there's no one who has my back. And that might be the one thing that makes him want to stick around. And I think it would be healthy for the Steelers if he did stick around, because I think he did a good job managing the team in those last 3 games. And it should be an honest quarterback competition, whether it's Rudolph, Pickett, and a rookie or another vet or whoever. Have him come in, and if he earns it in camp, he earns it in camp, and he starts, and then you see where it goes from there. But you don't hide it, Kenny Pickett, from competition. He has to go up and prove that he's the starter in this upcoming camp.
The moment you get to about $10 million per season with Rudolph, which is where I'm like, you're paying a premium, because I look at Trubisky, they paid him something about $8 million this past year. He was the 28th highest paid quarterback in the league this past season. Mm-hmm. And you didn't get that premium backup when Pickett goes down. That's what you were paying Trubisky for. And that was this frustration. And like, everyone's like, well, Tomlin didn't move off Trubisky fast enough to get to Rudolph. And I'm like, look, I can point to 8 million reasons why, because Rudolph came back on the cheap, a little bit more than $1 million league minimum this past season. You were paying Trubisky a premium. So then your third string quarterback's making $8 million a year as the 28th highest paid quarterback in the league. Like, get out of here.
Yeah. Like that money is a big factor in this. And also, like, let's be real. Mitch Trubisky also gave some gutsy performances for the Steelers last year. Like when Kenny Pickett got hurt, he helped them fight through some tough games. I want to say the Bucs game, the Saints game, definitely the Panthers game. And if he doesn't come through in those moments, the Steelers might finish with a losing record last season. I think he deserved a chance to prove himself. But I think this is also part of Mike Tomlin and part of what does make him a good coach. Mike Tomlin doesn't bail on guys when they make him look bad. You know, like even when Mason Rudolph in that Ravens game, in the monsoon, Mason Rudolph wasn't having a good game for a bit. Mike Tomlin never wavered, never said, "Hey, Kenny, go warm up" or anything like that. Gave him his chance, and then sure enough, fourth quarter, bang, Rudolph hits the slant to Deontay, and it's a touchdown. And it's like, that's what I get for banking on my guy. He banked on Mason Rudolph, just like he banked on Mitch Trubisky, just like he banked on Kenny Pickett. He believes in his guys, and that's what your job is as a head coach, to give them that opportunity. And you see it with George Pickens. George Pickens just all national attention on he won't block, and he's an attitude, and this, that, and the third. And he was just like, I'm talking to him. It's fine. And then George Pickens gives him 300 plus yards in back-to-back games, showing everyone like, hey, he is that guy. He just has to grow up a little bit. I think that's just who Mike Tomlin is.
If not Pittsburgh, what are some potential landing spots for Mason Rudolph?
You know, I hadn't thought about that. I kind of have to see how free agency shakes out, who, because other teams are going to make their cuts. Any team that has a young quarterback and needs a veteran,
just thinking out loud here, I'm thinking maybe Atlanta, depending on who they bring in other than just Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph wouldn't be the Falcons' only quarterback acquisition, but seeing what happens from a draft standpoint and then free agency, somewhere where he has the potential to start. That would just be one team I would throw out there where on paper it's where's an area where potentially he could start, where it's I don't think there's going to be a team in the league where it's yes, he's the guy, he's QB1. No. He'd have to win a competition of some sort.
No, I agree. It's been a competition thing, but I even think it'll also be people just want stability at their backup quarterback spot for a young quarterback, like a Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young in that situation, or Gardner Minshew's a free agent. The Colts with Anthony Richardson, if he goes down and gets hurt, Shane Steichen's gonna be like, hey, what if I can get Mason Rudolph to work here? I think there's a number of places for a solid backup number 2 quarterback. There's always a job for that. So if anything, I think Mason Rudolph, he'll either have a job with the Steelers or he'll have a job with someone. And I think that's one of those tough things, because I don't necessarily pay attention to which teams have the best number 2 quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But there's always a need for that. If I had to guess, he would be back in a Steelers uniform. But again, it goes back to how much is he worth? And then how much is another team willing to pay? And certainly he's earned himself some money. This is not going to be like last offseason where it's league minimum, I guess I'll come back to Pittsburgh, because he tested the waters and there just wasn't a whole lot there. I do think he'll wind back up in Pittsburgh. We'll see how that shakes out in the offseason. Any final thoughts about the quarterback? Then we can move on to a few other topics, Chris.
Just that I do think the Steelers will explore the quarterback position in the draft, because especially if they can get Mason Rudolph or a veteran that they trust, like a Tyrod Taylor, even just someone who they know is battle tested in the NFL and can push Kenny Pickett to at least give a standard NFL performance at quarterback. If they can find that guy in free agency or just bring back Mason Rudolph, I anticipate the Steelers maybe use a third, fourth, maybe a fifth round pick at quarterback to get another young quarterback in there, a young arm who they can develop. And if Kenny Pickett doesn't work out, maybe that guy's the next bridge quarterback before you take your next big shot at the position. But I can foresee that being part of the plan moving forward.
I've been saying that for weeks, and if Kenny Pickett can't handle it, and by his demeanor, I think he will be able to, but we've seen other teams do this. The Eagles did it with Jalen Hurts, moving off Carson Wentz. The 49ers moved off Trey Lance in the third pick with Brock Purdy. The Cowboys did it with Dak Prescott back in the day. So I'm not saying abandon ship with Kenny Pickett quite yet, because you did spend that draft capital with the 20th overall pick 2 years ago now. But we'll see. We'll see how this shakes out. The quarterback carousel is one of my absolute favorite things in free agency. So it will be fun to watch.